Start in about 2 minutes. We got waiting for somebody.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the graduation of the 33rd Park Ranger class at Skagit Valley College. This is designated as the Fall 2019 class. My name is Rick Mossman. I arrived a little over a year ago to take over as the new Academy Commander. I have had the privilege of working with these graduates for the past 18 weeks as they begin their journey into the realm of public service. Before we begin, I wish to acknowledge that this event is being live streamed over the internet to accommodate interested parties who couldn't be here today. This includes our National Park Service partners at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, FLETC, in Glencoe, Brunswick, Georgia, and a warm Skagit Valley welcome is extended to Superintendent Georgia Shaw, Academy Coordinator Mark Cutler, Accreditation Manager Crystal Clayton, and others who may be watching. We at Skagit Valley College are very proud to extend our graduation ceremonies into your households. We are also proud to participate in the protection of America's treasures, its parks, by producing quality graduates to preserve, conserve, protect, and interpret those outstanding natural, cultural, and historic features for the enjoyment of future generations. This year marks the 103rd anniversary of the National Park Service and the 105th anniversary of the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission. Let us begin by greeting the 33rd graduating class of the Park Ranger Law Enforcement Academy. Please stand. Right face. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Left face. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce you to Dr. Thomas Keegan, the president of Skagit Valley College.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2019 Skagit Valley College Parks Law Enforcement Academy graduation. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the friends and families of our graduates. It's nice to see so many supporters of our students here today. And I also want to thank you for being here to honor and celebrate the accomplishments of our graduates. The Parks Law Enforcement Academy began at the college in 1991. It's one of only 6 seasonal law enforcement training programs in the country authorized by the National Park Service and accredited by the Federal Law Enforcement Training Accreditation Board, and it's the only one in the Pacific Northwest. It's recognized around the nation for its high quality, and as a result, our students and graduates come from all across the country. This year, our students come from as far as Minnesota, New York, and Washington, and Indiana. The individuals before you today recently completed a demanding and rigorous academy that encompasses the entire spectrum of parks law enforcement, including an emphasis on natural and cultural resources enforcement. They completed 720 hours of training and are now prepared to perform law enforcement duties for the National Park Services, as well as for the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission. They've worked very hard and deserve to celebrate today. I want to thank all of our partners who give us their time and their talents. It's just not possible for us to have the Academy with the high quality that we have without the support of our partners. So thank you all. To the graduates, I wish each and every one of you all the best as you begin the next chapter in your professional life. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keegan. As I mentioned before, I'm the new commander of the Academy. I arrived here about a year ago, a little over a year ago, after directing the Academy in Colorado for 4.5 years, and before that, 36 years as a National Park Ranger. Greatest career in the world. For me, one of the greatest challenges of this Academy is to keep all the moving parts moving forward and onward. The curriculum of this Academy is laid out in a very specific order with prerequisites for each class. Students and staff had to remain very flexible for constant and abrupt changes. I would like to welcome and thank all the faculty and staff members of Skagit Valley College here today, Academy instructors, role players, other agency personnel, family, friends, special guests, other students, and of course, the 16 students we are honoring today. I would like all the adjunct instructors, evaluators, role players, and any others that helped these cadets on their journey this last 4 months to please stand. Thank you very much. Each of you have made a difference in the lives of these cadets. I would like to welcome and introduce some of our special guests here. North Cascades National Park Ranger Gabe Asarian, who will be speaking in a few moments. Skagit Valley College Dean of Workforce Education, Darren Greeno. Mr. Jerry Dodd, the acting chair of the Criminal Justice Department here at Skagit Valley College and former chief of police of Mount Vernon Police Department. And former Commander Bill Overby. I also want to acknowledge the members of the Academy Advisory Committee in attendance today. And a big thank you to North Cascades National Park, the Washington State Parks, the 3 local county parks, and Everett City Parks, and the Northwest Technical Career College, without whose help from their rangers and other staff members, we could not make this Academy run. Thank you. I would like to thank all the members of our law enforcement public service community here today. Cadets, will our military veterans please stand? And to the veterans of the audience, thank you for your service to this country. You may be seated. I want to give special thanks to Ms. Phyllis Berry and my new assistant, Jennifer Kinesic, who this fall have given me tremendous help in taking care of the many administrative duties it takes to run this Academy. Without their help, we would not be standing here today. But I especially want to pay tribute to the spouses, children, parents, relatives, significant others, partners, supervisors, and friends who unselfishly put their lives and relationships on hold so their graduating recruit could participate in this training. To each of you, my personal gratitude for making this sacrifice, and I thank you for traveling from far and wide to be here today. As Dr. Keegan mentioned, this Academy is only one of 6 in the country certified by the National Park Service and the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center to certify seasonal National Park law enforcement rangers. It is also used for the state of Washington state parks and our county parks and other city parks as a certification tool for their rangers. I dare say the majority of state park rangers you see when visiting the over 130 state parks in Washington most likely graduated from this Academy. I would like to say it's been an honor and a privilege to spend the last 18 weeks with these 16 future park rangers. For those of you not familiar with this Academy, it's tough. I hear comments constantly from other students, staff, and faculty about how hard you work and the conditions you work in. For those of you visiting here for the first time, let me say this program is not like a normal college program where in a semester, over 15 weeks, you go to class 3 or 4 hours a day. These students were up working on their own physical fitness, morning or evening, every day, running and weightlifting. Then in the classroom at 7:45 a.m. until 5 or 6 at night. Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, all in the space of about 18 weeks for 30 college credits. What a lot of Americans don't realize is how hard it is to become a federal law enforcement officer. I would argue the federal standards and the Washington State Park standards for a law enforcement officer, physically, medically, and the practical and academic testing standards are some of the highest of any law enforcement agencies in this country. These students go through the same length of time as the basic federal law enforcement students that most federal agencies send through FLETC. We are held to the same curriculum and standards. Just meeting the medical, physical, and integrity standards to be accepted to this academy is commendable and something to be proud of. During this academy, these students take 6 FLETC written tests, other written tests, practical scenario tests, practical labs, and physical tests. These are federal test requirements which they must pass. We as a college have no control over these federal standards. As an example, take the written tests. The instructors and I don't see those beforehand. They're delivered from FLETC in Georgia via computer to the students. So instructors cannot do something easy like teaching to the test. They have to cover the material completely, and the students have to learn and understand the material completely. These students have done nothing more than eat, sleep, study, and be in class for the last 18 weeks. They will have memories, especially one week toward the end of the control tactics block, in which they were tested one day by having to individually run a gauntlet, fighting for their life in a hand-to-hand combat against 3 aggressors. Then they were zapped by a taser, and one of them took the 5-second electrical jolt like warriors. And later they were pepper sprayed, and then had to fight off an attacker, call dispatch, arrest and handcuff the bad guy. Again, they all survived as warriors. We started this academy August 20th. These 16 stuck it out, made sacrifices, studied hard, bonded with each other, helped each other, formed a team, and are here today. I salute each of you for that. These students came here to learn how to be park law enforcement rangers. Law enforcement is an honorable occupation. There is an essay written by retired Lieutenant Dave Grossman called On Sheep, Wolves, and Sheepdogs. The gist of that essay is that our society is made up of mostly sheep with a few wolves that prey on the sheep. It is the sheepdog that stands ready to protect the sheep from the wolves. You cadets have chosen to be sheepdogs. About 1,000 years ago, a Templar knight was involved in defending a castle. After the battle, a young boy asked him if killing was a noble thing. As the knight looked at the blood and carnage around him, he replied, "No, killing is not a noble thing. But a life fought for others who cannot fight for themselves is a life worth living. That is a noble thing." These cadets have chosen to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, be they grizzly bears, trees, mountains, or park visitors. These students not only want to be just law enforcement officers, they want to serve in the national parks and the state parks and the county parks of America as park rangers. One of the most incredible occupations in the world. Now I admit, I'm a bit biased about that, as that had always been my childhood dream, and I got to live my dream. National Park Rangers have been around in some form for over 140 years since the creation of the first national park in the world, Yellowstone. In 1880, a man by the name of Harry Yount was hired in the newly created Yellowstone National Park as a gamekeeper to stop poaching, and after only 14 months, he resigned. He resigned because he said he couldn't do it by himself. In his resignation letter, he wrote, quote, "A small but reliable police force is the only practical way to stop the wanton slaughter of wildlife, forests from fire, and enforcement of other laws." Based on his suggestion, Congress sent in the United States Cavalry to run the parks temporarily until a civilian police force could take over, which is why the National Park Ranger uniform of today is similar to the U.S. Cavalry uniform. In 1907, Army General S.P.M. Young, who was the acting superintendent of Yellowstone National Park, was asked by President Theodore Roosevelt to devise a plan for a civilian guard force to take over the Army duties in Yellowstone National Park and other parks. Young wrote his report to the President in which he stated, and ladies, please forgive the gender bias of 1907, Young said, quote, "It is quite obvious that any man assigned to duty in any capacity in the park should be by natural inclination interested in the park and its purposes. In addition, every man should be an experienced woodsman, a speedy traveler on skis, an expert tracker, and a good packer. He should be of cool temperament, fearless and independent character, and handy with his rifle and pistol to enable him to find and overcome the wily trapper and the poacher. He should be well informed in the history of the park and thoroughly cognizant with all the curiosities and points of interest therein. Furthermore, a visiting tourist should always be favored by an intelligent and courteous answer on any subject pertaining to the park from any park guard." End of quote. I dare say every trait and skill mentioned in that 1907 report is still accurate, still necessary, and still utilized by park rangers today. A few years later, in 1916, the National Park Service was created as a government agency. Its mission statement has never changed, and I quote, "The service thus established shall promote and regulate the use of federal areas known as national parks, monuments, and reservations, which purpose is to conserve the scenery and the natural and historic objects and the wildlife therein, and to provide for the enjoyment of the same in such manner and by such means as will leave them unimpaired for the enjoyment of future generations." It is notable that not all rangers are law enforcement rangers. Some are interpreters who give the talks and walks and interpret the park to the people. Some are biologists and resource managers in charge of managing the resources within the park. And some are administrators managing the overall operation of the park. All these jobs as park rangers are just as important in protecting the parks for their future. A month ago today, I was halfway around the world attending the International Ranger Federation World Ranger Conference in Chitwan National Park, Nepal. It was the 9th World Ranger Conference held since 1995, and I have been blessed with attending 4 of them. It was very inspiring to listen to speakers like Jane Goodall and the widow of a murdered ranger in Africa who has started an all-women anti-poaching force in Africa. When I go to this conference, I always like to trade hats with other rangers. And I got a number of good ones from rangers in Mongolia, Australia, and Norway. But the best one I got was from a ranger in Kenya. It's beat up, it's used, it's sweat-stained, and it has blood specks on it. I didn't ask the ranger if the blood was his own, or from wildlife, or from a poacher. In Kenya, they shoot poachers on sight. But the point is that this hat represents the blood, sweat, and tears rangers put into their jobs. At that conference, there were over 600 field rangers from 70 different countries. And even though we all came from different cultures, different religions, different ethnic groups, and different economic levels, we all believe in the same thing. It's in our hearts and souls to protect wild places and wildlife, be they rhinos or elephants, grizzly bears or orcas or marbled murrelets. It was like being with your brothers and sisters at that conference. It always amazes me. And as one speaker said at the last conference, I don't see 500 rangers from 60 countries. I see 500 rangers protecting remnants of one national park. Terra National Park, Earth. Excuse me. So I salute you cadets for wanting to stand up for one of the most noble jobs in the world, to protect these wilderness and wild places and wildlife Mother Earth depends on that. I salute all of you for that. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Mr. Lou Diamillo, the Chief of the Swinomish Tribal Police, to give us some thoughts on policing.
I'm going to take a minute and flutter these papers around so that you think I'm doing something important. Let me see here. Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. We got to get through this together, right? So, Dr. Keegan, assembled guests, viewers from around the country, thank you for being with us. Most importantly, family and friends of the cadets that are here on the stage, thank you. And before I begin my remarks here, I just want to recognize the fact that you may be, going forward, the most important people in the room. This is a chosen profession that certainly takes its toll on simple things like sleep and attending events. It also takes its toll on health and the mental health of a lot of the people who are in it. In short, nobody on this stage that's graduating today can do it without the support of family and friends who are understanding and willing to listen and willing to flex their lives to accommodate the unusual schedules and unusual needs of people in law enforcement. This is a people business, and as these folks will find out, when your task is to help others, that often means unusual hours and not keeping things on a regular schedule. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being here for them going forward. My name is Lou Diamillo. I'm the Chief of Police for the Swinomish Tribal Police Department here in Skagit County. I'm also one of the cadre of instructors who worked with this group of cadets in order to prepare them for this very day. My own professional path has taken me through 3 universities in 2 states. I've earned 2 college degrees focused on the study of policing and government, and I've now spent 30 years working for federal, municipal, and tribal law enforcement agencies here and in California in uniformed and administrative capacities. In short, I am fully qualified to say I am from the government and I'm here to help. As the journey of these cadets moves from one phase to another in their law enforcement careers, I am humbled to be one of the people helping to recognize their achievement. And I want to thank Commander Mossman for the opportunity to share some thoughts today. As we reflect upon the call to public service, I think we should begin with an examination of the work environment that awaits these cadets. The cadets before you will claim office space in some very beautiful places. Working from cars, trucks, boats, planes, skis, and every other manner of craft and conveyance, they will protect the wild and wide open spaces of our nation. Working for tribal governments, for state governments, and the National Park Service, the cadets before you will protect places with iconic names. Here in Washington, the San Juan Islands, the Olympic Mountains, the Cascade Mountains. And across the nation, places like Yellowstone, Yosemite, Everglades, Badlands, Mount Rushmore, and the battlefield at Gettysburg. It was in 1863 that President Lincoln stood at Gettysburg and delivered his famous address. In a little more than 2 minutes, he summed up the fears and hopes of a nation divided. He spoke of a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. He went on to say, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. Today, we are in the midst of a civil war of sorts in our country. Increasingly, Americans are seeing headlines and stories that foster the idea that the public is on one side and law enforcement the other. Like any civil war, there are no winners. When law enforcement battles with its own citizens, everyone loses, because we are all Americans, afforded the same protections under the United States Constitution. Lincoln summed up the hope of the nation with these words that still ring true today, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. The cadets upon this stage step forward into that legacy. The badge and uniform, the oath they swear, the duties they take on are all designed to allow them to protect the constitutional freedoms and ideals upon which our citizens depend. Although we can all agree that these cadets will work in beautiful places, their real working environment is in the heart of the United States Constitution. Soon, these cadets will find themselves in remote places with limited resources and only training and wits to rely upon. They'll be asked to make the correct constitutional decisions about whether or not the freedoms of American citizens should be abridged. And because constitutional protections are so fundamental to all Americans, we expect that every arrest, every lawful order, every citation they issue will be correct every single time. It's a tall order, and it should be. Why, you ask, would someone want to pursue this work? It sounds difficult, we know it can be dangerous, and there must be other careers that could be equally as satisfying. The work is difficult. Nothing that we do in our lives that is worthwhile is ever easy. Law enforcement is complex, confusing, and sometimes incredibly frustrating, but it is also necessary. Maintaining liberty, protecting citizens, and fostering a free America does not happen without law enforcement officers. It can be dangerous. Dealing with the general public is tricky. Amongst our free citizens are those who seek to take advantage of others by force or coercion. Many citizens have mental health issues that can make them dangerous and unpredictable. The work can be dangerous. But people drawn to law enforcement realize that they would rather prepare for and step into harm's way than have that happen to the average citizen. Training, teamwork, technology, these are the backbones to safety for law enforcement, and they are a central emphasis of this academy. And if I can just step out of my prepared comments for a second, if you remember nothing else, training, teamwork, technology, never say no to training. The organizations you work for are going to come up with some cockamamie training ideas and say, we should send you to butterfly recognition school in Atlanta in the middle of summer. The correct answer is, I would love to do that. Never say no to training. Training is a good thing. If nothing else, it fosters networking. You can all suffer together. Technology. It will be incumbent upon you over the course of your career to change with the times. As I look across my law enforcement brothers and sisters in the room, most of us were handwriting our reports when we started. Handwriting everything when we started. And now, most everything is electronic. And we are being forced to change with the times. Get ahead of that. Stay up on the technology that is part of your profession. Train and learn technology. And the third is that teamwork. Today you step into a team. This is not a club. With a club, you pay your fee and you're a member. With a team, you earn your way onto the team, and you have to fight to stay there. Your spot is always up for grabs to somebody else if you're not performing. So remember that. Take advantage of the team. Use the people that are already in this 400,000 full profession. Across this country, there are people doing law enforcement at all different levels, all different skills and types, and they want to help you. So if you remember nothing else, training, teamwork, technology. Finally, we should examine whether or not there are other careers that are any more satisfying. I can share a truth with you. You are surrounded by law enforcement officers, all of whom have at least one thing in common. When they were sitting in their initial job interview and someone said to them, "Why do you want to go into law enforcement?" they replied, "Because I like to help people." Well, folks, helping people is not simple. It's not easy, and it can be dangerous. But it is tremendously satisfying. There really is no substitute for the feeling at the end of the day that you have helped make the lives of those around you better. And so, it is with great jealousy that I look upon these graduating cadets. I know that great adventures and challenges await them. They are joining a team, not a club. They have earned their way onto the law enforcement team, and now they must earn the right to stay there every single day. But the rewards are incredible. Cadets, in closing, what I wish for you is the same blessings that have been given to me from this career. I wish you a long career full of adventures and challenges. I wish you a chance to grow and improve and to train with some of the best, most kind-hearted people in the world. I wish you the chance to lay your head on your pillow at night and know that you have helped people. I wish you Godspeed, the best of luck. Work hard. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce District Ranger Gabe Asarian from North Cascades National Park, who will talk a little bit about National Park Service perspectives.
Welcome, graduates, family, friends, faculty, staff, and others. Thank you for the privilege of letting me address this group of cadets a final time. Please raise your hand if you've ever made a graduation address. This is not something I do often either, so I struggled a bit trying to figure out what I would talk about. I thought back to some memorable addresses. A few years ago, on this very stage, Swinomish Police Chief D'Amelio gave one of the best graduation speeches I've heard. And I did not know he was going to be here, or sitting right next to me. Was it the ABCs of rangering, or the 1, 2, 3s or something? I can't remember the details, but I do remember laughing so hard my cheeks were literally sore the next day. What would I talk about? I went to all-knowing Google for advice. A few ideas there, but nothing fit my personality or preferences. Against all better judgment, I decided to ignore all the advice and go my own way. But what would I talk about? I brainstormed about what's important to me as a ranger and tried to see if anything might be beneficial to you. About 20 years ago, in a conversation with a mentor about leadership, I was introduced to the United States Coast Guard's core values: honor, respect, and devotion to duty. Those core values spoke to me, and I've had them displayed on my desk ever since. So, how about a few homework assignments? Find the full version of the Coast Guard core values. Read them. But I couldn't make a graduation address about another agency's core values. What else could I talk about? Raise your hand if you're familiar with Rogers Rangers. British Major Robert Rogers led an elite unit in the French Indian War and the American Revolution. He created rules of rangering, which were a blend of Native American combat tactics and his own innovative techniques. These ideas were considered revolutionary by military standards at the time and are still honored by the United States Army Rangers today. A graduation address on Rogers' rules had potential for good humor, noting similarities where NPS hasn't changed in 100 years either. So, your next assignment. Read Rogers' Rules of Rangering. Many are still relevant to law enforcement today. I began asking friends and family for graduation speech ideas. I have 2 young children, so someone recommended I read Dr. Seuss's The Places We'll Go. I read it, but wanted to share something more meaningful with you. So that wouldn't work. I did address a previous class a few years ago and presented a quick version of my career with a few highlights and welcomes along the way. One regret I had about that address is I didn't even mention the National Park Service Organic Act, the mission statement, so to speak, of the National Park Service. To conserve the scenery and natural and historic objects and the wildlife therein, and to provide for their enjoyment in such manner and by such means as will leave them unimpaired for the enjoyment of future generations. With the birth of my kids a few years ago, that statement became more personal and took on more meaning. And the next generation of Ranger leaders is also changing before our very eyes, transitioning from Generation X to the millennial generation. I strongly considered a speech with a theme of rise up or something. What was that statistic about how 80% of Park Service Rangers have or will retire in the next few years? Rise up and fill those voids. What was that statistic about the high percentage of chief rangers that are young and in their first chief positions? Rise up and leave your mark. Those recent anecdotes of high-graded positions with few or no applicants? Rise up and have your say in the future of the agency. I'll reach my 20-year mark in law enforcement in a few months and become eligible to move on to another profession if I choose. Thinking about retirement and what I might do next, I couldn't help but think how much the National Park Service has changed over my career. I could talk about how email was pretty new technology in the mid-90s, and we spent nearly zero time in front of a computer. My first ranger station, the Elwha Ranger Station in Olympic National Park, had a dial-up modem. I was a seasonal backcountry ranger in those days and patrolled the campsites on Lake Mills in a small outboard boat. That was before the Elwha dams were removed, the river returned to its natural state, and the various salmon species were recovering. I went back to Google to find out what year scientists estimated there won't be any glaciers left in Glacier National Park. Wait, what's this about glaciers and climate change on the Olympic National Park website? I clicked, because I used to maintain some of the glacier study equipment on Mount Olympus and was responsible for conducting glacier training for the rangers. In 2000, I hired a local young wilderness ranger in the Hoh Rainforest, whose ancestors were one of the first homesteaders in the valley. He told me his grandpa remembers when the Blue Glacier was so big they used to step off the top of the lateral moraine and walk right out onto the glacier. In my time, we had to scramble down 50 feet of steep, loose rock before reaching the ice. Recent photos were even more dramatic, the glacier all the way in the bottom of that classic U-shaped glacier-carved valley. I scrolled down the page, looking at historical and modern photos of those glaciers I remembered so fondly. There was a photo of the Anderson Glacier. I remember helping the backcountry rangers there go through their glacier rescue equipment and make wish lists of rescue stuff they wished they had. I scrolled down further. Wait, what? The 2015 photo of Mount Anderson shows just a few small snow patches. The lake looks somewhat familiar, but the glacier is gone? I Googled Anderson Glacier in case my memory was failing and I somehow got it confused. Wikipedia showed a very familiar looking photo of a lake and glacier that I knew. The text read, Anderson Glacier was a glacier located in a cirque south of Mount Anderson in the Olympic Mountains. Was? Reading those three letters felt like I just got kicked in the chest. Was? My days on the glaciers of Olympic National Park were my very favorite days of the best job of my life. To this day, I have a cardboard box in my closet with all the paper maps I used to use as a backcountry ranger in the Olympics. I pulled out the Mount Anderson quad, and sure enough, it showed the Anderson Glacier, more than a mile long, just right where I remembered it. I had worked my tail off, 12 to 16 hours or more per day, but did I not conserve the scenery and the natural objects therein and provide for their enjoyment by future generations? I have no regrets about my career as a law enforcement ranger in the National Park Service. I could have made more money doing other things, but as the cliche goes, I got paid in sunsets, some spectacular ones. And this brings me to your final homework assignment. Enjoy things while they last, as they may not be there forever. They may not last a generation. They may not even last your 20-year career. Enjoy every minute. Record it so you remember. Share your experiences with others. So, to recap, your last 3 homework assignments, should you choose, Coast Guard core values, Rogers Rangers, and live in the moment. Thank you.
During the academy, logistically, what I do is I divide the class into 2, I call them districts, ranger districts. And we have a district ranger for each of the 2 districts. And they help me with assignments and this and that, and to keep everybody in order in the line. The first 2 district rangers I choose at the end of the first week based on participation in class, background, and things like that of the cadets. Halfway through the academy, I let the cadets elect new district rangers. Sometimes they elect new people, sometimes they keep who they had before. This year during the academy, we had 3 district rangers, Leslie Yard, Keith Weeks, and Ace Baker. And Ace Baker would now like to representing the district rangers, and the entire class would like to say a few words. Ace.
I need a stool. Good afternoon, I'm Ace Baker, District Ranger for Albright District, and to start it off, I'd like Commander Mossman to come forward and receive this plaque on behalf of the class. Here you go. It's beautiful. Has all our names. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Commander Mossman stole some of my thunder earlier and had the people stand up and be recognized, but I'm just going to name a few of them. If I forget you, I apologize. It's been a long class. So Commander Mossman, Commander Overby, Chief Dodd, Darby Darrow, Kevin Russell, Ken and Steve, that's one name. Hugh Dewar, Lieutenant Cowan, Chief Lou, Kevin McFadden, just a few of our instructors, and again, I apologize if I left anybody off. I did not mean to. So thank you guys again for your help and instruction. And I don't know if you guys realize it, but we were educated in a traditional native style, because our people believe that it takes a village to raise a child. And the one thing that these guys have in common is that they were all different, and they all had something else to bring to the table. And you know, most of us, we're coming in pretty fresh. You know, we didn't really know anything, except for Craig, who's on like his 53rd academy or something like that. But most of us, we didn't know anything. And so, and all those people that I just named, collectively, they have about 1,000 years of law enforcement experience. You know, I'm exaggerating. That's where you guys are supposed to laugh or something. But, you know, I'm exaggerating, but not by much. You know, they're all very intelligent, and they've been doing this for a long time. And they helped us take this first step. You know, this academy is just the first step. And I want to thank you guys, from my wife and my sons, you know, all those people, all those instructors that I named. Thank you very much. You know, I know my wife appreciates you giving me instruction and helping me, you know, because what's the goal of every officer at the beginning of every shift is to come home. Come home to your families. That's our number one goal. And so it's now on us to take these next couple of steps, you know, and do what we can to stay sharp, stay focused. You know, this is a dangerous job. And like Chief Lou said earlier, you know, if some training comes up about some butterfly recognition down in Georgia, you know, get on him. You know, hey, Chief, hey, boss, I need to get on that training. You know, I was in the Army for 12 years, and I did 3 tours to Iraq, and it seemed like the deployments were easy compared to all the training that led up to those deployments to get us ready to go. And my old platoon sergeant used to tell me to work on your field craft. To always work on your, you know, even if you're not going to the field, you know, sitting at the house, you know, work on something. So that's what I want to say to you guys, you know, practice drawing your weapons and stepping offline, you know, work out, stay in shape, you know, those are, it could be as simple as sitting in your own couch, watching TV and clicking a pen to work on your trigger pull. Because what does Darby say? Darby always say, practice makes permanent. Permanent, that's right. I heard that, MJ. I got you. And I hope you guys all have a long and distinguished career and never have to use your sidearm. But even more important than that, I hope that if you ever do have to use your weapon, that you've already done it 10,000 times and your draw is smooth and your aim is true. Because I want you to go home to your families at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ace. What we're going to do now is we're going to present a number of awards. So cadets, if I call your name, just please stand. Your certificates or other items will be given to you when we walk through and get our certificates. We're going to start off with firearms. These students during the academy learn to shoot a pistol. They have to shoot at daytime qualifications. They have to do it in reduced light nighttime qualifications. They learn to shoot a shotgun and also a patrol rifle. So, got a number of awards here. Again, just please stand. The best pistol score, daylight pistol score, was Craig Herkenhoff with two qualification shot. Got a 56 out of 60. Best reduced light pistol score, also Greg Herkenhoff. Best patrol rifle score, Alexander Smith, who had two perfect qualifications, 60 out of 60. Also firing perfect on at least one perfect qualifying round was MJ Abrahamian, Kendra Warwick, and Keith Weeks. The highest firearm score combined of rifle and pistol was MJ Abrahamian with 162 out of 180. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is driving. They spend a week getting every kid's fantasy of driving as fast as they want on a closed course. However, when they drive that course, they have to watch out for cones and they have to make deliberate turns and things like that. The vehicle dynamics course is 1.4 miles long with a total of 15 cone patterns to navigate. There are a total of 232 cones. These consist of 12 and 18-inch cones, as well as 36-inch delineator cones. The time must be completed under 2 minutes and 45 seconds with no more than 5 errors. That means you can't hit more than 5 cones or you're disqualified. The vehicle placement course is approximately 1/10 of a mile long and consists of 5 cone patterns that have to be navigated while driving both forward and in reverse. The course consists of 60 delineator cones. The time limit is they have to do it under 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and there can be no cones struck or you're disqualified. Now, we have a few Top Gun, what we call our Top Gun Awards, and thank you to our lead instructor, Kevin McFadden, who's here today for making these awards. Now, I just want to also point out, not all these students won a Top Gun, but their ability to drive while under the stress of qualifications and still obtain a clean run is acknowledged by us as pretty good. These guys have all become good drivers under some pressure circumstances. So for the best Top Gun, and I've got 5 awards I'm going to mention here. For the best Top Gun for the EVOC course, that's the long course, for the Mather District was Alex Smith with 2 minutes and 35.25 seconds. The Top Gun for the EVOC course certificate for the Albright District was Craig Herkenhoff, 2 minutes 40 seconds and 2 minutes and 40.66 seconds. The Top Gun for the placement course, Landy James with a time of 1 minute and 31 seconds. And Landy, when you come up, I'm going to show you this cool award you are going to get. It looks like this. Kevin McFadden. The Top Gun for the EVOC course and the best Top Gun for overall course was Alex Smith. All right. So we have more awards here. One of the things the students are required to pass is the physical efficiency battery, the PEB. That's based on a score that they've been doing at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center with law enforcement officers for the last 60 years or so. It's age and gender adjusted. They have to, all in a matter of about 2 hours, they have to have a check on their body composition, a stretching flexibility test, a bench press based on their body weight. Just to give you an idea, for a male under 25, they have to bench press about 92% of their body weight. mile and a half run, I think I said that, and an agility run, a shuttle run 60 yards where they have to go back and forth and run through cones, basically. So they've been working on this all for 18 weeks. And I'm going to start with this award, and that is, some of these folks came in really good shape, didn't change much. There were some that came in and improved tremendously. And first, I would like to just acknowledge the most improved male and the most improved female. And the most improved male was Alex Smith, who improved his overall of those 5 tests from day 1 till last Friday by 25%, which is saying something. And our most improved female was Allison Clark, who improved 26.67%. However, in our final PEB last Friday, our best overall score female was Brooke Webley with an amazing 95% overall. Our best overall score male was Ace Baker with 85%. And if you did the math, you'll notice the best overall score total was also Brooke Webley. Now our academic awards. As I mentioned, the students have to take 6 written FLETC tests, and they're not easy. I'll be the first one to admit that, because I took those tests a long time ago. And they haven't changed much. They're still very ambiguous, in my opinion. But in any case, there were 4 cadets, let me rephrase that. The cadet with the highest written test score on all 6 tests was Miss Leslie Yard with a average test score of 93.74%. Now then, they're also tested and graded on scenarios, on lots of different practical exercises they do throughout the course. They get graded on all that. And there were 4 graduates who finished overall the written test, the practical test, and everything with a score of 95% or higher, and they are all considered distinguished graduates. And they are Allison Clark, Brooke Webley, Keith Weeks, and Leslie Yard. And I want to say that the highest overall achievement of those 4 was Leslie Yard with 96%. And if you did the math real quick, you realize all 4 of those were within 1 percentage point of each other. 2 awards left. The last award is one I created a number of years ago, and it's called the Partner Award. And I asked the students to vote for who they would want as their partner working out in a park. There's no criteria. Whoever they think maybe would be their best backup, whoever would be the most fun to ride a horse with, whoever might tell the best jokes sitting around a campfire. Again, no criteria. Who would you want as your partner? And I think it speaks a lot of this class that out of 16 graduates, there were 10 nominees. That says a lot about the character of this class. However, the person that received the most votes was Miss Brooke Webley. And the last award I want to present is called the Chiefs Award. I decide this award. And I look at these 16 cadets over the last 18 weeks, and I look at who has really exemplified the spirit of park rangering through high achievement, through helping others, through volunteering, and works well with others, and all those types of things. And the Chiefs Award, they're going to get, I'm giving them a Ranger coin. This coin is only sold to park rangers. You have to be a park ranger to buy one. This year there were only 200 of these printed for 2019. They're also going to get a copy of the iconic book, National Park Ranger by Butch Farabee, and he signed this for them. And also I'm personally giving you a one-year membership to the Association of National Park Rangers, which is our professional society of National Park Rangers. And the Chiefs Award this year goes to Brooke Webley. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to present our certificates, and the cadets are going to be pinned. What we're going to do here is the cadets are going to come up here, get their certificates. They're going to go to the middle of the stage and get pinned, and that would be a good photo op if you want to get a photo of your cadet. Then they'll be coming over to me and getting one other thing. And at the beginning of the academy, on day one, they were each given a little piece of metal, a metal round metal blank, unfinished, unpolished, just a little raw piece of metal. And I told them if 18 weeks later, if they deserved it, they would get something to replace this. And what they were going to get is they were going to get the Skagit Valley College challenge coin to replace their piece of metal when they turned that into me. They had to carry this with them everywhere they went during the last 18 weeks. And we would randomly ask, everybody show us your device, we called it. And if they didn't have it, they had to do 10 or more push-ups right there on the spot. So they learned to carry this wherever they went. So now as your reward, you're going to get this replaced when you walk across the stage. So if I could have my helpers get in place here. Stand up. All rise. Thank you. Lewis. Louis Acosta. MJ Abrahamian. Ace Baker. I might mention the pin they're getting pinned with is a replica of the badge the superintendents of the National Parks wore from 1920 till 1960. Miss Allison Clark. Mr. Craig Hergenhoff. Mr. Landy James. Miss Jamie Curtin. I'm sorry, Jamie Kitchen. Sorry about that. Mr. Armando Lopez. Ms. Lee Remington. Mr. Alex Smith. Ms. Hannah Tarzian. Congratulations. Mr. Eric Taylor. Ms. Kendra Warwick. Ms. Brooke Webley. Mr. Keith Weeks. Congratulations. Miss Leslie Yard. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jerry Dodd, who will give the symbolic oath of office.
Thank you, Rick. It's truly an honor and humbling for me to stand before graduating class 2019 and among the many friends, family, loved ones that are here today. Throughout the past 18 weeks, we have openly discussed the importance of park law enforcement ethics and professional conduct. All rangers are expected to maintain their conduct, performance, and behavior to the highest standards in our society, and are rarely forgiven for any unethical shortcomings or breach of public trust. To be worthy of this public trust and to ensure that your professional conduct is above reproach, you must not only conform to the law enforcement code of ethics, but today you'll take an oath of honor to your friends, family, loved ones, and maybe even your boss. The law enforcement oath of honor is a symbolic statement to your ethical commitment. In class, we talked about ethics, and each cadet made an ethical commitment to themselves. But today we're going to make a formal commitment to others, everyone in this room. And you're going to witness that the Rangers will sincerely do what they say they're going to do, but also promise that they're going to do that. When they take the oath, they promise they will always follow and obey these principles and hold themselves accountable to that promise at all times. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Class 2019, raise your right hand. The law enforcement oath of honor. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency that I serve. Class 2019, as you stand in front of your family, friends, and loved ones, please acknowledge your commitment by saying, I do. I do. On behalf of all those here, we honor and thank you for your commitment.
For you graduates, the national parks, the state parks, the county parks represent the best of this country. They epitomize this country's democracy as they are open and available for the enjoyment by all peoples of this nation and all nations, regardless of race, religion, economic status, or political beliefs. So for you graduates, it is important for you to remember these things, the things you have been taught here, and remember the park rangers who came before you and those who died while wearing this park ranger hat, all of whom are carrying out their duties of protecting grizzly bears in mountains, forests, and ocean beaches, of protecting the historic and cultural sites that define this nation, and of protecting the visitors of generations past, present, and future. I hope each of you from this point forward can live up to their professionalism and those ideals. Each of you have worked very hard to get to this day. Go out, wear your uniform with pride, stand tall, and be proud. Rangers, attend. Park Rangers of class number 33, dismissed. Please stand. Thank you, and please join us in the reception area for light refreshments.